Welcome students to Virtual Reality and Digital Spaces, a special tutorial on sound recording with different instruments to create sound design for your game, environment, movie, whatever you want to create. So I have some recordings here that I made on my handy dandy cello that I keep here in my studio. Let's listen to that real quick and see how it sounds. So I'm not a great cello player, as you can probably tell, and surprise, that wasn't actually me playing cello at all. What this was just me singing in a cello-ish style, and I used AI to change it into a virtual cello. So here's the actual recording. I won't subject you to too much of my voice, don't worry, but here we go. Do, 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 do. Right? So this is an example of a generative AI tool that I created called MicDrop, and you can basically sing something and turn it into that instrument. What is the advantage of that? Well, composers oftentimes, basically all the time, you don't have the ability to play every single instrument that you want in your piece. So the traditional way was you write it down as a musical score and you go and pay a cello player, or you find a friend who can play cello, or you learn just enough so that you actually can record it. But the modern way and a new technique is to just sing it and actually turn your voice into different instruments. So I'll play a few more of these and you can hear different styles. I want to talk a little bit about extended techniques on instruments and what that means, but here's an example of kind of a pizzicato or a plucked version of a cello. So if you're playing a real cello and you pluck it, that's called pizzicato. Now, interestingly, to my ears, it doesn't exactly, I was trying to make a pizzicato with my voice. I was singing it in that style. But our model interpreted it more as still kind of a stringed thing. So it's like a quick string, but I can still hear the sort of the string scraping the string. So if I wanted it to actually sound like a pluck, I might need to use a different model, or I might need to sing even pluckier plucks, like even shorter, and maybe the model would pick that up. So that's the trick of working with these things, and kind of the magic too. It's very fun trying to put stuff in and seeing what you get out. I want to talk too about kind of extended techniques. Let's do something fun with it. So what you can do is you can sing, you can put your voice in, but you can also put in instruments or any sound and kind of see how it interprets that. You can turn it into trombone. Let's hear what that sounds like. Yeah, not too bad. We have flutes and different instruments. But what is an extended technique? If you've never heard that term, I mean, extended technique is a term that we can use in other situations, but in music, it refers to traditional instrument players, for example, a flute player or a cello player or a saxophone player, doing extended techniques. And what that means is it is playing their instrument in a way that's not traditional. So it could be like if you're on a cello, instead of using your bow, you could scrape anything else across it. You could scrape a sandwich, right? Or you might hold it sideways and sort of strum it or something. That would be an extended technique. I want to focus today and do something kind of fun to recreate in digital a beatboxing flute, which is one of my favorite extended techniques of all. And let me play an example of what that sounds like. So think about how few people in the world play flute. There's a lot, right? And how many people can beatbox with their mouth, kind of make drums. Everyone can do it a little bit, like, but the people who are really good at it, it's a very select number of people. There's not too many. And then even smaller is the number who can do this technique, which is called beatboxing flute, where they're actually drumming through a flute. And let's hear a video from 17 years ago, one of my favorite videos on all of YouTube of Nathan Flutebox Lee playing his extended technique of a beatboxing flute. Here we go. So good, so good. All right, and you can tell by the video quality that it's a pretty old one, but just a masterful recording, right? You know, not many people in the world can do that. It's very, very, very select number. So if you were trying to get that effect for something, you wanted to make a track or include it in something, how would you do that? Well, let's show how we can recreate a simplified version of that concept here in MicDrop. So I have an example of where I put in a drum beat. I think this is the drum beat. Let's listen to it. Okay, so that's a drum beat. So what happens when we put that drum beat onto a flute? Let's listen to that. So I experimented a little bit and found I could get it to sound a little bit better by adjusting the gate, kind of tweaking a few things, like make it different as it goes into the model, and we'll hear what that sounds like. So pretty good, but I wasn't getting enough of the beatbox. And so what the magic is when you start combining these different models. So I'll show you how to do that. We have a batch tab, and you still have the same input file. And what you can do is pick multiple models. So I'm gonna pick a flute, and I'm gonna go down and pick my beatboxer called the Boxer. And I'm gonna process both of those and put a little bit of reverb on it. We're creating a fake effect, right? We're trying to create this beatboxing flute from scratch. So let's process that and see what happens. So it's doing its AI magic all on my machine, all locally. It's nothing with the cloud, no credits, none of that stuff. It did the flute first and did the beatboxer second, and then it combined the two. Let's take a listen to what that sounds like. Pretty good. Too much reverb. Let's hear it without the reverb. All right, here, processed it real fast. Too much time space. I want them to be closer together. I want it to sound like one instrument, so I'm going to put the space down. Here we go. So not perfect, but pretty good in terms of a beatboxing flute. And this is what's so fun about these models is you can just put stuff in and see what comes out and have an extended technique that you could not get someone to do. You know, even with all the instrumentalists and musicians that I know, if I wanted to get someone to beatbox flute today, it would take me a long time. I'd have to make a lot of calls and ask friends of friends and try to find a flute player that can also beatbox. It'd be very difficult. So it is not a replacement for someone like Nathan Flutebox Lee, but that's an example of how you can use extended, kind of get these extended strange techniques by clever use of these AI models. So if you would like to play around with this, we have tons and tons of voices. You know, you can use the traditional thing too of singing in your voice and changing it to a different person's voice. But essentially you just make these sound recordings. You can use anything like voice memos. You can even record stuff and then copy paste and drop it in here. And that's how you get your voice in, and then you just process it to be someone else. I could take an example. Let's see. I'll try to find one of just my voice. Well, that's what's funny too, is you can try to make it like sound like these sound effects. Let's see what that did in cello form. Not bad, not bad. But you can also just do traditional things like, you know, put it into a female voice and put it up an octave and hear what that sounds like. So we'll take a listen. And she'll be making the funny sounds now. So sky's the limit. I encourage you to check this out. If you'd like to try it, I will give you a free license and you can give it a whirl. So my students never need to pay for these types of things. But if you're interested in it, it's a very fun modern technique. And that's how you can actually play a bunch of different instruments and have a bunch of different singers that you don't have access to otherwise. All right, that's the end of this tutorial. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in class.